Yeah, it's like Coach talked about there, it's a good time of the season, kind of have an open week here where we can kind of get our guys back, kind of looking at ourselves a little bit in the mirror and kind of doing some self-scout and evaluating kind of where our strengths and weaknesses are and some areas that we need to improve. And the other big part of it's getting our guys back and healthy, getting our team back together here. We're a little dinged up here at a couple of different positions, but I feel like this is a good week for our guys to get back health-wise and to start getting back to work and developing some depth here.
Coach, what made it so difficult to get maybe consistent pressure on Cam Miller last week?
Yeah, they did a good job of getting it into third and manageable downs where we should have been better at probably on first and second down to get in some longer down and distances. They do a good job of keeping you off balance there where they'll go between the Q run game and getting the ball out quick where they're tough to get pressure there. Even if you do bring it and unblocked, he'll get it out quick. And then he made a couple plays. We got to him twice and we missed him once where he evaded a pressure. We could have got him sacked there on a third and long, but he's a good player. He makes really good decisions, quick decisions where it's tough to get to him there. And yeah, it was just tough in some of those down and distances to try and generate some pressure there.
Now, as we've reached this bye week, is there anything that surprised you about where you guys are at, good or bad? Just anything that maybe isn't exactly lining up with your preseason expectation?
Yeah, I think we've developed some depth within our D-line with even with the injuries that we've had there. That has been a nice surprise. Some of the guys that have come along, some of our transfer guys, and even some of the young freshmen have done a good job contributing there. Outside of that, the guys that we were kind of expecting to be our playmakers have been Josh Nabertil and Wyatt Pettigo and Malachi McNeil and Case and Kelly. Our linebacking group has done a really good job of being some playmakers. And then, in the secondary, Devin Hembry and Antonio Blewett, granted, they didn't have as great of a game as you wanted yesterday or on Saturday, I should say. They've been playmakers for us and doing a good job there of challenging receivers and have allowed us to do more things on defense.
Coach talked about using this week as an opportunity to get some first-year players a little more comfortable. Is that applicable on the defensive side of the ball, or how do you see that?
Yep. No, that's actually probably the biggest thing that we're going to try and do here is trying to bring some of the younger guys along to be able to get some more depth and be able to rotate a little bit more at certain positions there. And obviously getting back into some of the base playbook stuff where they can really hone in on some fundamentals and have a good understanding so we can start using them a little bit more. And if it's maybe just a 4-game thing where we use them or even maybe more than that, this is a good week for those guys to get developed.
Kind of when you're going up against a quarterback like Cam Miller is, kind of how do you begin to focus in on that? Obviously, hindsight being 2020, kind of what do you think were the biggest things to prepare for there?
Yeah, he's a good player. He's seen it all. He's played a lot of football, so it's tough to give him stuff that he really hasn't seen or hasn't handled before. It's just trying to get them off their script and try and get them into more manageable down and distances, which is tough because they have a good run game and they keep it tough in there with the big personnel to try and bring more than they can block at times. And then the big thing there is just trying to change the picture on him and try and generate pressure through that way. But he's a good player. You got to give him credit. He makes some plays, and he made some big plays on Saturday and got himself out of some trouble when we did get there on the two of them, and really could have maybe got our hands on a couple of balls there too early in the first half that you kind of forget about until you look back on it, where we could have had an interception here or there that maybe could have changed that first half for us. And the big thing there was to generate some momentum on defense too. They kept us so off balance there with getting it to 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, where it was tough to gain any momentum there.
Going up against the number 2 team in the country in their stadium, kind of what do you think the biggest takeaways could be for your guys coming out of that, especially as you move forward into the always tough Valley schedule here?
Yeah, I think our guys battled yet. That was the encouraging part. They didn't back down. They kept fighting all the way through, and they finished strong at the end of the game there. It was just like I challenged our guys on Sunday. We got to make plays when they're needed, and these games are just going to come down to 1 or 2 or 3 plays, and they made a touchdown on a flea flicker, which we were in position on to defend, and they ran a double move on the opening drive to get a touchdown. We're still not in bad position, but we got to make those plays. You can't just be there. You got to make the play, and that's the difference in those games. It just comes down to it's 71 plays we played on defense, but really you break it down, it's probably about 5 plays that decide that game.
Coach, for those younger players that you guys have on this roster, especially on the defensive side, what have you seen from them, from fall camp to where we're at now?
Yeah, it's been encouraging for those guys that have contributed for us. They've done a good job of learning the defense, getting in, being comfortable. my position group had safety. There's a lot of guys that have never played snaps at safety before in defense, and they've done a good job of being prepared, staying locked in during the week, and just kind of having a workman mentality where they're going to battle and fight and try and do as best they can and develop themselves and get ready to roll, because it's you don't know until you get into a game and see what you're at, but they've done a good job during the week of practice to prepare themselves.
And, on Saturday, despite the result, when you saw that you held their rushing attack to, not to what they're normally used to, how encouraging is it to see the rushing attack or rushing defense is stepping up? Yeah,
and that's a point of emphasis. We want to stop the run. That's our first thing we always look at on defense, and that's what we're going to pride ourselves that teams aren't going to be able to run on us. Now, granted, they still are able to get a significant chunk of yardage there. A lot of that kind of came in the second half on a couple of Q run plays there, but for the most part, our guys did a good job in the box battling. Our guys up front really battled. Our D-line, our outside backers, our inside backers, and then the secondary guys that we asked to get it down in the box and be the extra hats down there did a good job. And there's still stuff we can clean up in there. There's a couple of misfits that we gave them some yardage on, and one that they got out for like a 15, 16-yarder that we just misfit on the back end with our secondary. But they did battle, and which was encouraging, and it's going to be like that every week in this league, so we got to be good at it.